Hi everyone, welcome to Dear BAMf, the show for PR and marketing pros like you, hosted by Beck Bamberger of BAM. BAM is a communications agency that believes stories move the world. We move stories forward for technology-driven brands that challenge, change, and create entire industries. Today, on the Dear BAMf podcast, we're talking with Sheena Badani, Senior Director of Marketing at Gong. Gong enables revenue teams to realize their fullest potential by unveiling their customer reality. Sheena is an experienced marketing and business development leader at multiple pre-IPO companies at various stages, from seed to growth. She's also a co-host of Gong's branded podcast, the Reveal Intelligence Podcast. Let's dive in.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Dear BAMf, the podcast for marketing PR pros such as yourself who have lots of questions and quandaries to get answered with our wonderful panel of people we bring on here to answer and give the advice for all our hairy questions, as there is a total array of them and never ending. Today, we have on Sheena Badani, who is from Gong. I'm so excited to bring you here, and welcome, Sheena.
Thanks so much, Beck. It's super fun. I love getting on air and especially to meet you through these means. So thanks for having me.
Yes. Well, we've got some good hairy questions we're going to get into. So that's going to happen. But first, for those who don't know, can you tell us about Gong? What is Gong solving?
Gong is what we call revenue intelligence software company. Mm-hmm. At the simplest level, what that means is we are showing you what's actually going on with your customers, with your deals, with your market. The way we do that is we capture all of your customer interactions, whether they're happening on the phone, over email, documents, web conference calls, and then our platform analyzes all of that rich data, and we will help sales leadership, help sales reps and associated teams really understand what's happening. And this is all without reps having to enter in information, do all of that manual data entry. This is like where the fancy AI and machine learning, exactly, where that kind of comes into play.
I like there's a tagline on, at least on your LinkedIn, goodbye opinions, hello reality. I like that.
That was an initiative, and we kind of rolled that out about a year ago. Mm-hmm. And if you work with sales folks or any go-to-market team for that matter, there are situations where you want to know what's happening with customers, or how are they responding to this new messaging we rolled out, or how are they taking to a new product we launched. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes, or it's like a sales manager saying, hey, what's going on with this customer that we're trying to close? And, in the old way of doing things, we're so used to just hearing anecdotes or the opinions of whoever's closest to the customer saying, oh, I think this, or they said that. So that's kind of like where the opinion piece comes in.
Yes, this is so needed.
Exactly.
So and instead it's going good. Well, what is that?
Yeah.
What is that? Exactly. Oh, I totally get that. How relieving then for those people in charge of directing sales or anything with revenues, because then you can actually understand what's happening.
Yeah, you understand what's happening. You can guide your team in the right direction. Mm-hmm. We're so focused on enabling our teams with the right skills, helping them to become better in their professions. And it's not possible for a sales manager to sit on every single customer call to provide that feedback. Mm-hmm. That's not realistic of anyone's time. And so that's kind of like where the platform can come in and identify those patterns. What's a rep doing kind of across their deals, across their conversations? Where's area for improvement? So there's a whole skills development and up-leveling story around Gong, which is very, very, interesting. And especially in these days, you're remote, you're not sitting next to your team. How can you help them to get better at their job each and every day, and utilizing data, not just utilizing opinions of, hey, I want you to look like me. I when I was a sales manager, I did X, Y, and Z. Why aren't you doing that?
Mm-hmm. Ooh, that's good. What are you most proud of accomplishing, let's say in the last 12 months?
The last 12 months have been so
ridiculous,
interesting. Yeah. It's been crazy. Mm-hmm. Even aside from kind of what's going on in the market and in the world, and from a health perspective, professionally, I think for anyone listening, if you kind of look back at what you've been able to accomplish in a remote world, it's quite mind-boggling.
Yeah.
We just did like a year in review and looking at the things that we did this year. And if you asked us a year ago, can you do all of this in a remote environment? We probably would have
You
said,
would have
no
been
way.
laughing.
What are you talking about? Yeah. So I think just at a high level, like just the way that the team and we all have shifted has been remarkable. One area that is like of personal passion and I think had the most impact for me personally was an initiative earlier this summer where we did a mini brand refresh with the focus being on diversity. So if anybody's familiar with the Gong brand, we use a lot of fun imagery of some of our key personas on the website and across our assets. You know, there's like sales reps and the sales ops leader and the sales manager who's on the floor with the rep. We have like all of those images. And when we kind of took a look at it with the light of and the context of what was going on, conversation and dialogue wise this summer around diversity and inclusion and making sure that you're representing your customer base, we took a solid look at our own brand and felt there was a tremendous opportunity for us to better reflect our market. Amidst COVID, we did a photo shoot with some new characters to really bring some enhanced diversity to our brand. So we brought in a female chief revenue officer to represent the topmost leadership and power of our characters on our site. And even age was part of that. If you had prior looked at our website, we had a very young demographic, which was in some ways had a strong startup look and feel, but our audience is very broad. We have a lot of sales reps that have been decades in this field.
Yeah.
And so I think that was something.
That is something to be proud of. I was going to say, so these are, when I was looking at the website, I thought, oh, maybe those are like stock or something. They look so great, but no, those are your own originals. That's great.
Yeah, own originals. It was well received. I think, especially if you spoke to any, kind of non-traditional folks that are in our market, they felt that they were better represented. So
that's great.
This was just one step. I think we can continue to do better, but it was just like kind of one step in that direction.
That's a good one. And then what about, maybe this is connected to what you just mentioned, but what is your favorite way or favorite way you've been telling stories right now?
Oh, good question. I think a big part of our world today that's been kind of uncovered is that we're all human.
Yeah.
And there's a human aspect to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I think just telling our customer stories in the most authentic way possible is the best way. There's no need to sugarcoat and hide your home, whether that's like in a Zoom conference or in a video that we, produce and share more broadly. There's no need to hide your little puppy dog that comes into the video. All of that real, true, authentic human spirit and the ability to showcase that you can relate to one another, I think is my favorite part of what's become of these remote times. Mm-hmm. And something that we try to bring into our storytelling as well. If you read any of our case studies on our website, for example, they're all told in a very human manner. It's not really formal language. We're not trying to, make something more complex than what it is. As you read the story, we give context of how that, quote unquote protagonist or whoever we're talking about in that case study was, how they were functioning in their day to day. What were actual conversations that they were having with their peers that may have led them to discover that they had a problem or that they needed, they looked to Gong. We add a lot of jokes and pop culture references in those stories.
I was looking at those. Yeah. Keeps it real.
It does, exactly. So keeping it real and authentic and human, I think that's the best way. Like, don't try to be somebody that you're not. And the people that you're writing for and writing to, they're just like you.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't stand when you're reading a case study, you're like, this is the most fictionalized situation. It sounds so, it's just fake. And you go, that's not really how those people were talking. Anyway, it's like reading a bad press release, I think. Like, no one talks that way. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, Sheena, we have a couple questions here from the advice trough that we need to get through. First one being a quick one here, and it's Dear BAMf. Is it ever bad to turn down a PR opportunity? When shouldn't you turn down one?
I do think there are situations where you may need to turn down a PR opportunity. I mean, yeah, there's the phrase, any PR is good PR. But part of it comes down to the bandwidth of your team, right? If you are a scrappy team and you need to focus on what's going to have the highest impact, there may be situations where, hey, if you engage in this opportunity, the reach is really small or it's not targeted at our core audience, may not be the best time to invest any amount of resources into that opportunity, because it's not just you. You're going to have, some executive review it. There's going to be cycles around it. Maybe something incorrect comes, then you have to spend the time to go back and get that agency to update that. So I think you do need to take the time to evaluate and make sure, does this fit into our objectives? Do we have the bandwidth to do it? And then go for it or not.
I'd also say, are you prepared for it? So is that spokesperson, the person you want to put in front of this media person, dialed in, completely on point with the messaging and so forth? Because otherwise you can get in a real damaging situation where, oh yeah, let's just do that opportunity. And you're flubbing all over your points. The person is not well executed in terms of their training for media. And it actually is damaging. And then the last thing I'd mention for this is, who is the reporter? And this is what we spend a lot of time on. Is that reporter doing kind of glossy, lovely? I mean, there's just reporters that do like, oh, this is so great. And then there's really investigative journalists who have an angle, who have a pattern of doing certain stories in a specific lens. And do you want to be part of that? You got to do some dirt digging to see who are you dealing with on the other side. Unfortunately, reporters are all humans just like us. So everyone comes in with a bias, an angle, an approach, a this, a that. And so sussing that out, one, having your person prepared as the spokesperson, but two, who's the reporter?
Do your homework.
Do your homework. Okay, here's our next one. Dear BAMf, I'd like to help my sales team of 10 or so reps better use our amazing media placements we've secured over the last 2 quarters. What are some low-lift ideas or resources I could give them? I send out a company-wide email to our startup of about 100 people whenever we have some good press come out, but I'm feeling like that's just not enough for them to forward to potential clients. Many of our sales reps are pound the phone, hit your number types who are perhaps a bit old school. Oh, well, Sheena, you deal with salespeople all the time.
I can relate to some parts of that, whether it was me being at Gong or, in a prior life.
Yeah.
I think part of it is doing as much as you can to make it easy for, whether it's your sales team, your customer success, account management, whatever team that is that you want to drive some activity, do as much as you can so that they are prepared. And it's easy for them to then, scale that message out, to amplify that message. I'm happy to mention like a few, tips and tricks that we do.
Yeah, do it.
So first of all, if there is a big announcement or some interesting news, prepare for it as though it's like a product launch and have that type of approach to this message that you want to get out to the market, or this interesting pickup on television or a blog. So a few things that we would do, again, to make it easy for our reps and customer success folks. Number one, we'll actually block time on their calendars to share the announcement. That could be sharing on social. It could be sharing an email with their clients. But actually physically blocking the time.
Calendar. Yeah.
Yeah. You might skip an email, or if it's on Slack, it gets kind of obscured in all the 1 million messages that are there. So I think blocking the calendar is really helpful.
That's a great tip.
Second, I would say, again, do the work for them. Draft the email that you want them to send to customers.
I was going to mention that.
Draft the social post that you want them to put on LinkedIn.
And even variants of it. Like that's even next level is you're like, oh, here's a few samples, which sounds like a total pain in the ass. But then those will get used because someone will just go, oh, well, I like that one. That third one. Let me just use that. And then they post that.
Exactly.
But, this is so true. So true.
If you want them to use an image or a screenshot of the product, or maybe a screenshot of that headline from the New York Times, whatever it is, include all of that in the calendar invite or in a link to a document or an attachment. And I think another piece is like use automation if it makes sense. So if you have a marketing team, you're using Marketo or whatever it is, there are scenarios where you may want to send, depending on what the news is, you may want to send kind of a blanket announcement or a personalized announcement that comes from the sales rep, that comes from the account manager, so that, again, they don't have to do the work, but we're getting the right message out to who we need to get it out to.
The last thing I'd say on this too, I love that list. My favorite tip being the calendaring of the actual promotion. So smart. is as you get then successes or indications of success, such as, oh, a lead saw the piece and said, oh, that was really cool. Oh, didn't know you guys were doing that. Like anything positive in that light that shows acknowledgement and positive acknowledgement. And then of course, if you actually close the deal, share that so that then you're starting your own little internal PR campaign of like, hey guys, this works. This is a nice little touch point. It's super easy. I tee it up for you. Super easy. All you got to do is send it out. I put it on your calendar. This will help you close more deals so that becomes a clear indication of why they should spend their time on this instead of, oh, I guess I'll just make that person happy because they sent it to me,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tell them the why.
Why is this the why? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why is this announcement? Why is this news? Why is this pickup relevant for them and for their customers? Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to send out junk.
Yeah, no.
We get enough of it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Help your executives set that example that you want as well.
Very good point.
So again, similarly, do the work for them. If you want them to be reaching out to, it may not be customers. Maybe you want your CEO to send that announcement to select influencers, analysts, whoever it may be. Draft that all for them so that they can kind of pick it up and take it and send it, or you send it on their behalf. If you want them to be posting on social, do it for them. Create different iterations for the different execs that piece of news makes sense for. Like if it's a product announcement, for example, you'll want your chief product officer, maybe your head of engineering to put that on their profiles versus something that may be more market oriented. We just raised a round of funding. You want that to come from your CEO. So do the work for them.
Double down on that and the why. Last question then here for us, Sheena. Dear BAMf, what to do, Dear BAMf people? My CEO was on a national TV segment, a top tier one, to be clear. This would be great, except she was lackluster and clearly nervous. We did all kinds of training, but nothing prepares someone for live TV. My question is, my CMO, whom I report to, insists we need to blast it out, send it to our investors and so on. I'm on the other side of the fence. This interview was just not good, and I'm concerned it would do more damage than good. My CEO, of course, is just over it and doesn't want to deal with it anymore, so I can't defer to her. Thoughts?
Oh, this is a tough one.
This is the toughest one.
You saved it for the end.
Yes, I saved it for the end. Okay, I do have some thoughts on this, but go ahead.
So I think the first thing I would ask is, what stage is this company at? Because if you're a smaller startup that may not be as well known, I think this is kind of that place where any PR is good PR. Sure, your CEO may not come across as the most polished. They may look a little nervous, but oh my gosh, you're on this highly respected new series. On the other hand, if you are a larger company, maybe you are already public or you are looking to go public in the next year or so. At this stage, you're really trying to set up your company, your executives and team to demonstrate that they're capable of leading this very large, well-run organization. And in that scenario, I would be more concerned about really blasting this everywhere and anywhere because it may not put your CEO in the best light.
Ooh, I like the lens of the stage. That's quite important.
In either of those scenarios, you could think about other ways to use that pickup. Like maybe you don't want to use the full video clip in its entirety.
That was what I was going to mention. Edit that shit
up. Sorry, I'm taking the words out of your mouth.
No, edit that stuff in a clip and post only that. And then you can you can have to click here to read the full. Most people are not going to do that. They're not going to watch the 8-minute segment. Just give them the 30-second. That's the best 30 seconds. Yes.
100%.
Highly recommend that. And then, by the way, then you could just put the logo, on your website. Oh, a scene on. You could do that. And that doesn't have to be linked to anything. So, interesting.
I like those ideas a lot.
Edit that up. Mm-hmm.
And maybe even you want to take quotes or kind of like the written transcript of pieces. If the audio is not great either, that's another idea.
That's another great idea. Oh, so good.
One more is you may not want to think about like blasting this, but let's get a little bit more segmented. Who is this clip most relevant for? Let's just share it with that portion of our audience.
Exactly.
Maybe it's just, managers, maybe it's just investors, maybe it's just whoever it is, the end user, instead of blasting it widely to everyone.
And then prepare for next time. Learn from this. Watch the clip. Like go back on it. And reps are needed. That's the only way you really prepare and ace these.
Yeah. Do more media training.
More media training. Yeah. Yep. I like the editing part. Edit that up. Well, Sheena, thank you for being on today. We've covered all the questions as of today. Of course, there's always more. There's always more coming. So we continue on with this wonderful podcast. But I appreciate it. And thank you for sharing your pearls of wisdom. I learned a couple.
Yeah, that was super fun. Thanks for having me. It's a kind of a nice change to put your head in a different scenario of what you're dealing with on a day to day.
Your stuff, right? Yeah, exactly. You're like, no, someone else's problem. That's great. Yes, so agree. So agree. It's cathartic, isn't it?
It is.
I love it.
Thanks for listening to Dear BAMf, the advice podcast for PR and marketing pros like you. Our show was created by BAM, a PR and marketing agency headquartered in San Diego and New York City. The music you're enjoying today was composed by Tiffany Dizon, produced by Daniel Kessner, and played by San Diego Symphony's Art of Milan. If you have a tough PR and marketing question you'd like us to answer, write to us at bamtheagency.com/Dear BAMf. Don't forget the F. If you'd like to get notified of our latest episodes, subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts and review us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.